This little light of mine, this light of mine, ayy, I'm gon' let it shine, I let it shine, ayy, this little light of mine.
Hey there, new listeners, old listeners, anybody peeking in on what we got going on here in the Man Kave Experience. Just a little lead in by Avery Harden. Just as I mentioned previously, Avery has allowed us to use some of his new music on our podcast, so we're going to continue to use that. So stay tuned for other tracks that are on his album, his first album. But tonight, just checking in with my main man, Cedric Edison. Just, kind of in a place where we are every week, kind of not knowing at times what we had to talk about, but just checking in tonight, just kind of feeling for me, a connection with reality, just, reality as I experience it, reality how you may experience it, the listener, and Cedric, as you're listening in and kind of contemplating that subject. We're going to chat about that. But first, just a quick check-in with you, Ced, see how things are going.
What's happening? Hey, old and new listeners, I appreciate y'all joining us. Man, such a pleasure to be here with y'all. Man, it's been a pretty cool week, man. I like this topic, reality. Because now that you mention it, man, that's something, because I meet with my coach on Tuesdays, and that was something that my session was kind of around reality and hold on, I wrote it down. The story, we make ourselves believe the stories.
Right.
So, man, I'm pretty excited about this one.
So tell me a little bit more about that. It's kind of fresh in your mind. I mean, when you start speaking about reality, when you just hear that word, what comes to mind as far as your maybe just a little definition and just kind of how you experience reality and what is reality in your life?
Man, it's a little different now as a coach. It's almost like I kind of imagine it almost being like the Matrix. The two could, it could feel so real when it's not reality. Like something we were talking about is, I'm getting ready to up-level a little bit and start reaching out to TV stations and stuff like that. And it's just real daunting. And I have a lot of fear around success, being successful. And when we dug deep, it was more every time I've become real successful, I wouldn't say I had to, but for some reason, I went into this self-isolation mode. And now, it's rearing its head, and I'm like, the story I'm telling myself is, man, when I reach out to these people, what if, it goes real big and now I get real busy in the next couple of months and I don't necessarily know how to juggle it all. And so I'm making myself believe the story that it will be hard to manage versus the reality is I don't know what I don't know. Mm-hmm. And the only way to find out is to just step into it and see.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you and I have talked at times about just, kind of being okay with uncertainty and just, those aspects of our life that are that unknown. And I think when we look at reality, sometimes we equate that to what must be or like what we're destined to experience in our lives versus you're really willing to take steps back to say, I'm creating my reality. I'm deciding in each moment what the next words are in the sentence as part of the paragraph that's part of the story that's what my life is. So I think when we think about or we say that phrase, that's just reality. What does that really mean? That to me, it kind of sounds like our willingness just to accept life as it is versus, like you're mentioning, what it can be. What are the possibilities? What are those impossible things that when we look at reality, why can't those things be reality? Why do we have to assume that because somebody of our stature, only being in coaching for less than a year as far as being certified, What gives us, this sense of our reality being that we can serve others, and we can charge for, helping others, and we can step into this place in our life to where we're doing things that others might, look at us and go, wow, how do you go from, many, many years of doing one thing, and now you've invested yourself into this new career, and now your new reality is this. So for me, I think it's that willingness to just write that story as you go, to know that, you are the author of your life. You are you're the person that's making those decisions, hopefully consciously, to move your story forward, to create that reality that you sometimes don't feel connected to or think is possible. And I would guess that most of us that don't feel like we can take that step forward, or we say, that's just reality, I think then we're coming more from an unconscious state where we're not really tapping into the present moment, and we just figure it's never happened before. The messages we've got from others is, there's no way you can do it. All these messages of you're not going to be able to succeed. And then unfortunately, there's times we go, that must be true. That's what I've experienced in the past. That's what I've been told by my mother, my father, my friends, other people in my life. So who am I to say that that's not true, and to then step forward and, decide that's not how it's written. My story is not written. Everything that I do in my life, I'm doing things that may potentially change my story very quickly. It could be over time. But I'm taking actions to create my own reality. I'm not just sitting back waiting for life to create that story for me.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm like, man, I want to ask, is it almost safe to say that even our quote unquote perceived definition of reality really isn't true? Because at the end of the day, I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, well, you know what? It's not the present moment. The now is the only true reality.
Right.
No matter, we can try and design the story the way we want to be, right? Or want it to be. But again, everything leading up to the now is uncertain, right? We don't know until it exactly happens in that exact moment. And I was just like, another aha I got from it, like, okay,
Yeah.
to kind of help get over it, because it almost is that Matrix thing, until you're actually there, it's all perceived.
Right.
I don't know if I'm trying to go too deep with it.
No. And I was just thinking about, when you look at the origin of words, and when you look at reality, you take out the ending of it, and it's just real, REAL. So, when you think about what reality should be, it should be something that's, real to you, a real experience, a real feeling, a real, kind of understanding of what we want out of life, what we need out of life. I think we have desires, we have human needs that are basic that we need, but we also need, we also need a, I guess, to have the desire, again, getting back to the desire to expand, to grow, to, kind of create other opportunities to take us into other areas of our life that we may have not explored. And if we're closed-minded to what reality might be, then most likely we're going to make decisions, in the moment, in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, that are going to lead to that, closed-minded result, or that lesser than result that might be out there. So I think, we have to be mindful of, when we just throw that blanket statement out there, that's just reality, right? And we hear that all the time. And we look at just, the what's going on in the world, and we just say, yeah, that's just reality. But if we all just kind of took that approach, then those that are taking the actions, they may not be the actions that is the best for mankind. And, life as we know it changes, the direction of the, country changes, all these things that, kind of create movement in the direction of, hopefully positive growth, positive experiences, just the uniqueness of us growing and really experiencing all that's out there, not just little bits and pieces of what life is, but to look at reality as being something that, all aspects of our life are able to experience, not just, things that we feel like we're not deserving of them, or we don't know how to get them. Those are all blocks that we put in our own life to pretty much guarantee that we won't get those. So yeah, I think it's just a very interesting word when you really kind of think about just the different meanings that people throw out there, or just the openness of that word and what it really implies when you don't really understand, at least from my perspective, that we're creating our reality. Again, I'm not trying to repeat myself, but I think it boils back down to just that willingness to realize, each moment is opening up.
Yeah.
So how do we experience that moment? That's based on conditioning, or maybe we can look at it as I can respond or react to this moment differently than I have in the past, and let's just be curious of what happens with that.
It's kind of interesting, man, that that last point, because I'm like, I wonder, because I know if I was to be completely honest, I know a lot in the past and a little bit now. Sometimes I find myself, oh, that's just how it is. That's reality, or that's life. And I'm just wondering about you, because for me, a lot of the times I say that just to remain in that what I call the familiar zone.
Right.
Because change and going to a new place could be pretty scary. So it's a lot easier for me to say, oh, you know what, that's just how it is. Or, no, you can't do that because this is guaranteed to happen this way. So I wonder how much of it is that familiar zone for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that easy button, right? I mean, that's another way to say it, that's just life. Well, what are we watching, what do we experience to say that that's the default life? I mean, life is evolving every moment. So what are we basing that statement on? And I think, like you're saying, I think oftentimes we just use that as a phrase to kind of remove ourselves from having to overcommit to something that's uncertain. We can stay safe, and we can come up with an answer that seems to make sense. A lot of people say that. So that's probably the safe bet, is to say that's life. But what if we took upon ourselves, when we're in those situations where we don't necessarily agree or feel differently, and we say, no, that's not really life. That's what maybe we experienced in our life up till now. But don't we have the ability as human beings to create more choices for ourselves, whether it's the actions we take or the responses that we make, or just how we kind of move forward in our personal growth, or how we influence others to move forward in their own personal growth. I mean, if we just look at the default, that's life. There's no learning there. There's nothing tangible that you can say, well, who is holding this space for that is life?
Right.
Is that me?
Dictating that, right?
I mean, is what I call this is life the same of what you would say this is life? Probably not. Because based on your experiences and kind of where you're at in your life, I mean, so we throw it out there thinking, well, you must think what I think, because we all live on this earth, and we all, have similar needs, and we have a lot of similar experiences from, the environment we're in. But how much of it is just that playing it safe, playing it small, because it doesn't harm us. It doesn't make us feel vulnerable. It doesn't make us feel uncertain, and all those things that we have explored here about, how we live our life. And it's oftentimes, and I still struggle with that, is just how do I, kind of step forward and say, no, that's not how I feel. I don't necessarily need to tell you how to feel differently, but I can live my life based on my own desires to create change, to create my reality, to not think that my reality is your reality. Because I guarantee you there's so many little subtle differences in every one of us as human beings. To say that reality is just really, I think, just really kind of a far-fetched idea, because, if you sat down with that person and really explored what their reality is versus what yours is,
totally different.
totally different. Yeah. Even if you're very similar in nature, there's going to be a whole lot of things that you could say, wow, really? You believe that? That's your reality. So I think those are the things, but that creates that willingness to be accepting of others. We all have, so I think that kind of allows us to grow. We're not like black and white. My reality is your reality. What you watched on TV, the same thing I watched, I responded quite differently. I took it as this, and you took it as that. And I think that's the uniqueness that we have. So I guess we just had to be careful, I guess, as human beings, to not think that or assume that we don't have the ability to make decisions or to influence what our reality might be in the moment, today, tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh, you know what? We have a prime example. I think it was about a month ago, maybe two, when we were talking about the heart. Two totally different realities.
Exactly.
The reality is just a belief. Is you believe one thing, I believe another, and and then I like how you said, man, who's holding that space? That gave me an icky feeling. I was like, man, like I don't want anybody else holding my truth, basically. So hey, I get to create it, kind of. Hell no, I don't want nobody else.
Right, and that's what we do for others, right? Because when we encounter others that may be in a place where their reality might not work well for them, I think that's where we can at least foster that space, kind of like we do with this channel, to actually create that space for a new reality, for maybe a shift in how you look at things, maybe a reaffirmation of something that you thought all along. You're like, I've been thinking that all along. Now Ron and Cedric are talking about a similar thought that I had, or looked at it in a certain way, and that maybe gives a little bit of validation to where they don't think that they don't matter, or their thoughts are crazy, or however people respond to when others aren't siding with them or giving them a pat on the back saying, hey, good response, man. I really think that was a great way to think about that. I think just by holding that space, we do that as coaches. We do that as parents. When you think about, Messiah, when he gets, as he starts growing, you're holding this vision in this space for him to know that it's safe, that it's comfortable, that it's an opportunity for him to, evolve as a little boy, kind of learning things about himself, about you, about with the world. And I think that's when the longer you're willing to hold that and not feel like you need to do anything but just create a safe place and an environment for opportunity to learn about their own reality, beautiful things happen. And it's hard to hold that space, right? Because sometimes we see people hurting. We see others that are struggling, have their struggles, and it's like, I'm tired of holding this for you. When are you going to step into it? But it doesn't really take a lot of effort just to be more, I guess, at least aware of a mental space. Not so much you have to be there in their presence, but knowing it's like having a good friend. I mean, I know I can call upon you, and that space is available for me most time. Almost, I would say 99% of the time that I would need to call upon you. So that's a space that you've created for me, and I think that's kind of a reality that I've been able to adjust to based on before, where I didn't really have friends where I felt like that would be truthful in other situations in my life.
Yeah, man, we do hold spaces for people, and which, man, is crazy, because it makes me, especially when I think about like some of my past clients and the space that you held for them. It's like, wow, okay, we can definitely take away from this to always be looking at the space we're creating for people and our positioning in the creation of their reality too. Mm-hmm. Help us either do or not do some of the things that we normally do. Yeah. Help create a positive reality, I should say.
Right. And sometimes they're not ready, right? They may never take advantage of that space, but just that, I guess, that knowing that it's there, that it's safe, that if need be, they can enter into that space and feel like that's a reality that they can feel connected to. Even if they don't step into that with you, I think that's still a good place to really start in our lives to, create that opportunity for others that you may not even talk to that person for the rest of our lives. But that's a little simple, conversation where you can maybe give them a different perspective on what reality really can be and what it is and what it's not. Just that simple message or experience on a one-time basis, I believe, can really give value to that person for many, many years down the road. And who knows when they may ever step into that, whether it's through somebody else or coming back to you and saying, you know what, I'm ready to really share that space with you and be more present with maybe some of the struggles I've had.
Yeah, man. Because I know we're getting short on time because you got a reality you got to face here.
Yeah, I've got an engagement tonight, but I think that's where part of this whole, I guess, conversation or idea came up because, I've done, as you know, a whole list of things that, kind of putting myself out there in so many different ways and not thinking that reality is none of these things are ever going to materialize. That's just possible. It's possible that all these different ripples that I put on in the universe may not come back in the way that I think that they might, but this one did. And I think that's when reality becomes kind of evolves through me. Reality is now changing, even on a simple level, where I'm going to go speak to 20 officers that work in my town that defend and keep a safe place for me and my family to live in. Now I'm going to go speak and maybe create a different reality for them on how to be more in the moment, how to kind of look at life a little bit differently, how to let life unfold, and who knows how that might impact their home life. But even looking at the profession they do as police officers, they put themselves out there in a tough situation where reality is reality, right? They can't control those things, and how do they conduct themselves in a way where they're able to kind of handle themselves in a way where they protect themselves, they protect others, and they make the right decisions based on their own awareness to resolve difficult situations.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be I can see so many ways that can be so beneficial, man, especially in the climate we in now.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's a split. Some people dislike them, some like them. But I think that's a great step forward in the change that we need with the police officers, because we don't know what their reality is. The one reality is that they're human and they have a lot of different stuff going on at home that we may not know about. And for you to be able to go there and possibly impact, if it's just one, and because who knows what he's going through, who knows what he may do, but you just showing up and possibly creating a new, and I wouldn't even say a new reality, but getting him to see his own reality. Mm-hmm. Some perceived thing that may be holding him back from being the best officer or person he could be. Yeah. Man, that's incredible, man. We need more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I know that, these efforts that we make as human beings, I believe that energy that we release out into the universe comes back to us in some form. It may not be me coaching one of those individuals. It may not be me running across that person someday and then thanking them or thanking me for, a talk that I'm going to be giving to them. It could just be a subtle change that allows them to experience life in a way that they never thought possible. And, that subtle change, I think, manifests in different ways in people's lives. And, so yeah, I'm excited about it. So but I'm also excited about just the fact that we meet here once a week. We're creating this reality for ourselves. We put ourselves out there. We don't know what type of, kind of reactions we get from the other side. We just continue to do what we like to do. We love the fact that, those that follow us, continue to follow us. We love the fact that, we have the ability as men to show the side of ourselves. I mean, there's plenty of times where I know Cedric's home watching the Saints lose the Super Bowl, or
oh man,
or just our own teams that we watch that takes us away from this. But I think this is part of our reality. The show, these feelings we have, this relationship that we've been able to build, this friendship, and it continues to evolve. So I so appreciate you, the listeners, that share this with others, you, the listeners that may benefit from this, and you, Cedric. I think just for you, stepping up every week, willing to do what we do. Again, we've just brought it all the way back at times to, who the hell would have thought that a white man, 54-year-old white man from Southern California, would have met and connected with a black man from Texas, and we built a friendship, and then here we are having a podcast with close to 40 episodes and counting. So
I know I never would have in a million years guessed it. I was like, you're right. But
so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ced, for all you bring to my life.
Man, I appreciate you too, man. Appreciate you guys listening in, new, old, if you're sharing it, if you're just taking it back to a loved one and just dropping a word of wisdom that maybe you got from some nugget. Man, anytime I think about that just gives me the chills. Like, wow, if I can die now, just one person is impacted, I'm cool. And I'm so grateful for that. Because again, like you said, I would have never thought in a million years we'd have been here. And now it's a for real reality. Once a week, boom, hey, here we are.
And I think our willingness to help other people live their reality, and I, spoke of Avery Harden, who we feature at the beginning, and then we're going to feature a little bit here at the end. Here's a man that's trying to make it, in his own world and trying to really make a difference out there. So those things we can do for each other. I mean, obviously we create our own reality, but we can also influence how others might experience their reality. So with that, I will say my goodbyes, and we'll tag at the end here with Avery Harden, listen to music and follow him. And
Avery, we appreciate it, brother. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys listening in. I appreciate you, Ron, and I appreciate the universe for the space that we have. That's my goodbyes. Good night. See y'all next week. Namaste. And hey, knock it out the park, man. Let me know how it goes.
I will. Take care, Seth. Love you, bud.
All right, love you too, man.
Bro, reasons we should be equal. Following God, put them all on a steeple. Hate it and love it, he's the sinner we need, yo.